Hey everyone, my name is Matt Hauff. I'm quexington on Keybase, and in this video, we're going to walk through doing a one-time issuance of a Chia Asset Token, or CAT for short. We've just launched our Cat 1 standard, and we're excited for people to get their hands dirty in the Chialisp and start making some cool and potentially valuable cats. I put together a very small tool that will allow you to write some Chialisp and then deploy your cat to the network and have it show up in your wallet. Before I get started, I want to point out that I assume fundamental understanding of how Chialisp works, as well as the basic mechanisms behind the CAT standard. We have documentation for both of those things available on chialisp.com. I am also going to be using the Chia dev tools that I have demoed before in a previous tutorial series, so feel free to go watch those if you're curious about how they work. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see I have on my browser here opened up to a GitHub page, the cat admin tool. It's currently an internal repo, but it will be public by the time this video is released. And it's a very small repository, just something I made to help with the issuance, make it a little bit easier than making spend bundles via the RPC. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and do the install process. Now I've already cloned and I'm in the directory of it on my own local machine. So I'm just going to go through these last 3 steps here, as well as installing Chia dev tools. Let me open up my terminal. And as you can see, I've already cloned the repository and I'm in it. I have a little bit of a different name. It's called a cat issuance, but it's the same repository that I've just cloned. And then let me go ahead and make the Python virtual environment. Cool. Now that we have the virtual environment created, we're going to go ahead and activate it. And then we're going to pip install our local repository. This could take a minute. It is going to install all of Chia blockchain, so just give it a minute to get all of the dependencies and install them. All right, the pip install has completed, and so now we're going to install just one more thing and a dependency for it real quick. Let me just copy the command here, pip install Chia dev tools with no dependencies. Should be pretty quick. And then we also need to install PyTest because it's dependency of Chia dev tools that we do need in order just to run it. Okay, it'll give you an error saying that it requires a different version of Chia blockchain, but that's all right. You can just ignore that. So to test that we have everything set up, we can go ahead and type cats --help. Oops. And you can see we get our help message here. And we also want to make sure we have Chia dev tools. So if we type cdv-help, we should also get a help message. And that means that we're good to go as far as command line tools go. There are a couple other things that you're going to need in order to do this process. The first is a synced wallet that is capable of detecting cats. This is the Asteroids beta. And you can see my status is synced and I have the ability to add tokens if I want to. The other thing that you're going to need is a synced full node. So if you see, I can type Chia show S, and I will get a synced testnet node here. It can be a mainnet node if you're issuing on mainnet, but it says full node synced, and that's what's important. So that's everything that we need in order to start this issuance. Now let's actually get into the weeds of the Chialisp and see what we're going to be issuing today. What I'm going to be showing in this video is I'm going to be showing a single time issuance. That is, you can issue this cat one time and then never again. The way that we enforce a single time issuance in a cat tail is we require that the cats come from a specific coin ID. Since coins can only be spent once in Chialisp, that means that when you spend this coin and create as many cats as you want with it, that is the final time that you can use that tail. Every other time you try to run the tail, the parent will not be the predefined Genesis ID or the parent that creates all of the cats. And so the tail will fail. So let me go ahead and show you that tail program right now. You can see in our repository that we cloned, not only our normal cats, like this is the application that we actually use, but it also gave us some reference tails. And the one that we're doing right now is Genesis by coinid.clsp. You can see it's a very small Chialisp program. All tails take this form where they can have some stuff carried in, and then they're all passed these 5 arguments. And then you can optionally pass them a solution. This CLSP file does not actually take a solution, so I've just used an underbar here. So keep that in mind when we're creating the solution for the tail, that we are actually not providing it a solution. We're just going to give it nil because it doesn't actually need anything. The way that this tail works is it checks if there's any delta, meaning delta is we're trying to mint or melt cats. So we're trying to have a cat and then make more of the cat, or have a cat and burn some of it back into XC8, then we're going to raise. This tail doesn't allow that. This tail is only going to allow issuance. And the only scenario in which it allows issuance is when the parent ID is the genesis ID. Coding the tail this way means that whenever anyone tries to run the tail with whatever cat they have, it's always going to check the parent of the cat. It's going to get it from this truths object that is defined in cattruths.clib. It's just 4 things, and some of them are extra. Nothing to worry about there. That's part of the cat standard that you can go learn about on your own. But we're just checking to see if our parent coin was the curried in genesis ID. If it was not, we raise. If it was, we return no conditions, meaning that whatever the inner puzzle returned is allowed to hit the blockchain. So yeah, we should be good to go here. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use our command line tool to first get the coin that we're going to be turning into a cat, and second, issue that cat. If I go back to my terminal here and I clear it, let me make it a little bit bigger too. Let's pull up the cat's help and see what we're looking at here. Okay, so we're going to be crafting a command here, and we pretty much need all of these arguments in order to successfully launch the cat. So let's just start at the top and go from there. The first thing that we're doing is we're specifying which tail we're using. We're using a reference cat, so we have a file for it already in reference tails. Genesis by coinid.chialisp, and then as always we usually use the hex file just to make it a little bit faster so that we don't have to compile it. Next up, we have to curry something into this, which is the genesis ID, but actually we cannot do that right now. We do not know what coin we're going to be spending to make a cat. That's going to be something that the wallet gives us at a later stage. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to skip that for right now, and then we'll come back to it on the second run of this command. All right, so we're skipping curry. Solution, we can specify it if we want to, we might as well. But if you remember, like I said, this Chialisp file doesn't take a solution. We just didn't even give it a name because it doesn't use any of the values. It does exactly one thing, and it doesn't need any input from us to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the solution as nil. Next up, send to. This is similar to how the Chia wallet send command works. So let me go ahead and pull my wallet up here and just grab the address for my wallet and copy it, and we'll get rid of it again. Cool. Next, we need an amount. I'm just going to go ahead and mint about 1,000 of these cats. I think our GUI by default turns 1,000 cat mojos into 1 cat, much like a trillion mojos goes to 1 XCH. I think that's how we do it by default, but really what you're specifying here is how many mojos of cat do you want to mint. I'm going to mint 1,000. I'm going to make this a relatively low supply cat. Next, we can specify a fee. I'll go ahead and do it just to prove that it works. This is also in mojos just to maintain consistency between the amount flag. That's 5,000, 5 million, 5 billion, and then we need 500 billion. There we go. Half a Chia. All right, next up we need a signature. We don't actually need a signature. The signature will, for whatever we need to do, will be applied by the wallet. We don't have anything in this tail that specifically requires a signature. Later on, when we do another video about the delegated tail and signing new tails, that will require a signature. But for right now, we don't actually need anything, so we can go ahead and skip the signature as well. Additional spend. This doesn't even really work with any of our reference tails. This is just for later if someone makes a more complex tail and they need to push a separate spend alongside it that this tool does not have the capacity to create, then this is a way for them to attach additional spend bundles into this spend bundle so that we can push them all together to the network at once. Okay, so those are all of the input arguments. Now we're looking at 2 flags here. The first is as bytes. I'm going to go ahead and attach this flag because it's going to be a little bit easier working with the Chia dev tools. If you wanted to take the spend bundle that this outputs and push it to an RPC, it would be good to leave this flag out because it will by default return JSON. But for us right now, we want it to return bytes just because it's a little bit easier to copy paste. That's pretty much everything that we need to create our issuance. But again, we skipped the curry flag, and that's because we don't know what coin we're going to need to curry in as the genesis ID for this tail. That's why I've included this last flag here, which is select coin. What select coin does is it will run through the issuance process, but it will stop when the coin that is going to become your cat issuance is selected. Basically, it's helpful in a lot of the tails to know which coin is creating the cats or like what puzzle hash it has or whatever. We're going to add that flag here, and then we're going to run the command. and it's going to give us the coin that it's going to use to mint the cats. And then after we've run the command, we're going to go ahead and run the command again without this flag, so it does the actual full issuance. Select coin, and we should run this. And as you can see, our wallet selected a coin for us, a pretty sizable one actually. And this is the coin that is going to use to make our cats. We don't actually care about any of this amount or puzzle hash information. What we need is the ID. So let's go ahead and grab that and save it into a notes up here. Genesis ID. All right, so we have our Genesis ID, and now we can fully create our puzzle. We'll go ahead and delete select coin because we want to go all the way through the process this time. And then we're going to add the -- curry flag. And we're going to put in the Genesis ID. Make sure to prefix anything that you want passed in as bytes with 0x. That's how CLVM knows that you're asking for bytes and not for a string. Copy our Genesis ID here. And we are now currying in our Genesis ID as the first argument to our tail that we specified here. If you have a tail that requires more curried arguments, this flag does repeat. You can keep doing it, and it will keep currying in things as they appear in the command. So yeah, now we've done all of the arguments. We did our tail, we did our curry. The solution wasn't really necessary for this cat because it defaults to nil, but we specified nil anyway. And we specified the address that we want the cats to be minted at, and the amount of cats that we wanted to make, and the XCH fee that we want to pay to make this transaction go through. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and run the command. And as you can see, it outputs a big wall of text with two values. The first value here is pretty important to take note of. Once you mint the cat, this is your asset ID. This is how you tell people that your cat exists. This is how they add it to your wallet, to their wallet, and this is how you're going to add it to your wallet as well. So let's take note of that as well. All right, so we have our asset ID, and then we're going to copy this big giant spend bundle wall of text. It's just a sequence of bytes. And let me clear the terminal. If we go cdv rpc push tx, and then we paste this big spend bundle, it should go to our synced node, and it will return status success, success true. All right, as we can see, it withdrew the proper balance from our wallet. It withdrew the fee that we paid as well as the 1,000 mojos. There should be 2 or 3 more nines there to make it a full decimal place. So it took 1,000 mojos from us as well. And now we have that money missing from our wallet, but we don't have the token yet. So let's go ahead and add that token. You'll see that there's a list of verified tokens. This will probably be different in the actual beta release. These are just testing cats. So let's go ahead and add our own token. So if we go back to our notepad here, we can take this asset ID and we can add it, paste it in there, and then we can give it a name. I don't know, we'll just call this quexcoin, and we'll add it. I think the name actually doesn't work right now, but maybe it will in the beta release. If not, you can always rename the wallet. I'll show you how to do that. It takes a minute to generate some puzzle hashes, but as you can see, we have a spendable balance of 1. That's right. I forgot. I was confused for a minute that we didn't have 1,000, but remember I said that it translates 1,000 mojos of cat to a single cat. So we have 1 cat here, and we can spend it if we want to. We can send it to ourselves, 0.5. Important note about cats is that when you pay fees, you pay them in regular XCH. So just make sure that you are aware of that. And so we'll just go ahead and send that to ourselves. And you can see it's pending our -5 balance. We have 5 that's going to come back to us. And in a minute here, it should pop back up with our 0.5 that we have left. Well, it'll actually pop back to 1 because we just sent this back to ourselves. But yeah, that's how you issue a one-time issuance of cat. We can never issue this cat again. If we do, it would be an entirely different cat because we would have to specify a different Genesis ID. And if you remember from the cat documentation, a tail is what defines a cat. So we can never curry in a different Genesis ID and mint the same cat, because the puzzle will end up being different. That's it for this video. I'm going to do one more video in which I specify how to do a multiple issuance cat, which is the reference tail delegated tail. So we'll go ahead and get into that into the next video. Until then, I will see you guys later.